Michael Wittmann joined the army as a volunteer at the back end of the Great Depression in 1934. He served for 2 years with Infantry Regiment number 19 before leaving in 1936 for a brief spell of less than 6 months in Civvy Street. But this clearly didn't suit him and he rejoined the military. He became imbued with the spirit of National Socialism, which seemed to offer all the solutions to Germany's problems, and therefore he joined Hitler's Praetorian Guard, the Leibstandarte SS. This organisation had seen its origins amongst the hurly-burly of early days of National Socialism in Munich. By 1933, with the rise of Hitler to power, they had become his Praetorian Guard, and they had been dismissed by the army as chocolate guardsmen. But by the time Wittmann joined them in 1937, they were well on their way to transforming themselves into the Waffen SS, or the Armed SS. And Wittmann joined 17 Company, which was the Leibstandarte's armoured car company. Wittmann and the Leibstandarte's first operational experience was in the 1939 Polish campaign, and the criticism of the Leibstandarte was clearly not without foundation, as 13 Army Corps' report stated that they did not perform well at all in the few pitched battles they were involved in. At this stage, properly trained soldiers like Wittmann were of course few in number in the division, but the experience of the campaign laid the foundations for later success.
The war started and then nothing happened for a long time, and we started to sort of get back to normal really without a war on.
You were making army boots?
We were making army boots, yeah. And gradually Hitler went from one country to another and it spread out. The other things, I mean, right there with the bombing of Warsaw,
yeah,
Dunkirk, all these things which made you realise that you had to do something, I think.
So you went off to Bedford?
Yeah.
And what did they say there?
I got a bit of a problem with being in a
reserve
occupation, but eventually they accepted me. I remember one question I said, "Do you think you could carry a full kit?" And I was different from what I am now, and I said yes. He said, "Well, it weighs more than you do." Over the 2 years, we got a range of different tanks, so there were new tanks you had to get used to each time.
What sort of tanks were you?
Oh, we had Valentines, Matildas, right the way through to Shermans. By the end of 2 years, you'd be fully trained.
Yeah.
Really.
And you didn't think you were fully trained?
Oh, no way.
And was that you, or did people think that generally?
I would have thought they thought it generally. Well, anybody who went over the other side, when you got over the other side, you realised that not only didn't you know what you were doing, the officers didn't know what they were doing, and nobody else knew what they were doing, you know.
So when did you realise that the Northamptonshire Yeomanry were going to be quite an important part of D-Day?
I suppose when we got the Fireflies,
right.
The Fireflies came about a month before.
A month before?
Well, probably perhaps 6 weeks, I can't remember, something like that, not very long anyway. And we only got one per troop.
Yeah, and so had you been doing a lot of gunnery on the 75 prior to the Fireflies, or was that...
We used to go and fire I think in the 2 years, I think we went to the range about 4 times.
Right.
And perhaps fired 5 rounds.
So you probably fired 20 rounds in
Possibly,
2 years, yeah, as
perhaps
a gun.
Not as much as that, I don't really remember.
At that time again, did you feel as if you had an aptitude for firing?
No.
No more than anybody else?
No.
And when the Fireflies came, how often did you get to the range with the Firefly?
Before we went to Normandy, I fired 5 rounds once. We went once to the range, fired 5 rounds, and I think the main reason for that was to show us how the flash and the inside the tank, which nearly blew you out of the tank.
Did it? It was very loud.